Liv Morgan in the Judgment Day. They, of course, are celebrating Liv Morgan's victory over Io Sky last night. Liv also sporting a black eye here that you can't see in this photo, but we'll certainly see it on screen. And she says now that she's done with Io, she sees no more challengers. She continues to say she will be the longest and greatest reigning champion of all time. She does, of course, talk about Raquel's IC title win, and Raquel has like a custom Intercontinental Championship with like barbed wire around it now, and I guess kind of cool, even though I don't know if I've ever seen her touch barbed wire before in any sort of wrestling match, but
no. No, I dig the custom titles. I mean, this kind of just looks like a title with a little bit of barbed wire wrapped around it, but
that they will sell for $400 more than usual.
Yes, that's a good point. You understand the hustle.
That's it. Yeah. So this is all a setup for Roxanne Perez versus Sol Ruca, which is our match right now. Sol delivers like a pretty rare Romero special on television here, in inverted surfboard, if you will, and looked pretty good here. Follows up with a moonsault to the floor, goes for the rainbow DDT, but Roxanne knocks her off balance to take control through the commercial break. Roxanne counters an X Factor with a headstand, and as then Perez goes for like this kick that totally seems to miss, and the announcers maybe point out the sort of awkwardness of it all. She goes for pop rocks, but Ruca fights out and delivers the X Factor successfully. Liv and Raquel then get involved, and eventually it causes a DQ after the ref catches Liv Morgan. This does not matter, though, because the Judgment Day just want to beat Sol Ruca down. So a 3-on-1 beatdown ensues. Liv ends up standing over Ruca when Becky Lynch's music hits. And it is the first time in 2 months that we have seen Becky. And she appears to be a babyface again. Becky does not want Raquel's IC championship. She says she's made that relevant, so her job is done. Instead, she came here for Liv Morgan's championship, and she says she doesn't want Liv to wait 100 days to defend it again. She calls Liv Morgan a glorified valet who has been flirting instead of fighting as the champion. She calls hers the worst title reign of all time, and it's not just her saying it. Everybody's saying it. Liv responds and says Becky should be at home being a mommy. She's in her face because Becky is jealous. She says Becky's time is over and her time is now. She says, I am the greatest women's champion of all time. Becky says, you're not even the greatest women's champion in your own group. Or you're not even the greatest women's champion that slept with Dominic. Oh. So this is when the pyro hits, and out comes Stephanie Vaquer. The fans chant holy shit for this. Vaquer takes Liv out, fights off the rest of the group. Becky and Vaquer then go face to face. Vaquer says, stay out of my way. Becky says, or what? So we have the makings of certainly a bit more of a fuller women's division right now here on Raw, with some much needed star power in the way of Stephanie Vaquer's return, and also Becky Lynch is a babyface now.
Yes, much needed. That is exactly the way to put it here. They had a long exchange here in the ring, Lynch and Vaquer, and there was no mic on them. You could kind of just like read their lips. I kind of would have liked if they picked up on this a little more with like a mic on a camera or something, because they exchanged like quite a few words here. But I guess that's the sort of the number one contenders thing we're doing here. It's a fun one. I mean, two names who've been out for a while, Vaquer especially. I thought the interesting thing here was that so Becky had this just aggressive heel character where she was almost like a completely different person. A lot of people sort of drew parallels to like how she was like playing up like how Trump acts in his like social media posts and things like that. She makes reference to some of the things she said before in this promo here, but otherwise it's kind of a complete rejection of that ever happening. Like she almost finally emerged out of this like episode or something. How do you feel about this?
I mean, it's not the first time that she's kind of flipped back and forth, and I think it's perfectly acceptable now. Like, I don't think it's such a drastic character change that like makes her makes it not make sense. Like, she's still like aggressive. She's still I wouldn't necessarily say she was never really like like a pushover at all. Like, she's just now pushing her energies towards somebody we should hate a bit more in Liv Morgan. I think it's still somewhat consistent. And I also think like her pairing her babyface or heel status, like in recent years, seems to very much, I think, like maybe unofficially align with Seth Rollins's, in that, like, they may have ambitions of like pairing them together again in the future, and they just maybe in their heads feel it's a bit more convenient to have the both of them be the same rather than on opposite directions. I don't really dislike it. I'm more so just kind of excited just because of the matchmaking, because I think I am sensing maybe still, like, like with the men, some exhaustion of seeing some of the same faces at the top.
Yeah.
I'm not really like feeling that myself. I in fact think like Becky is much needed, in the top mix. I think like these sort of interactions she had here with Liv Morgan, even though they have like had a feud in the past, in 2024, I feel like this feels different to me now, because Liv Morgan feels so different. Like even compared to back then, her confidence and her just like character work and just her, I think, smoothness feels so much stronger. So that now we get her in this position as the lead heel against a babyface Becky Lynch. I'm quite excited to see what the results of that are. And I think the star power is as high as I think, it's been in quite some time. Not to mention, like, this could be a three-way program. We may be expecting a number one contenders match between, Stephanie and Becky, but they could maybe shape this into a three-way program so that the both of them are involved throughout. That would freshen things up for really everybody.
Totally. Yeah, I'm down for that as well. Just the Lynch character thing was sort of front of mind through that whole segment, but obviously the important thing here is that the roster is just so dearly needed. Not just two people, but like two stars that you can throw into that top program without needing much of a real build or packaging. And like Vaquer and Lynch, those are just like two prime examples of people you can really just throw back into the mix with no issue.
Well, what do you see for Io Sky, who was not on the show at all?
I have no clue, because I feel like she's someone who has been at the top of the card for so long, or at least top of the division, that it would feel kind of weird to downgrade her to a smaller storyline.
What storyline would there be for her? Like, number one, airtime is an issue. Number two, she doesn't have her like scene partners in Asuka, Kairi, Rhea. Just right,
cutting them out of the mix, I feel like left her with so little to work with. It means that, I mean, since she is alone, and let's just ignore the fact that Rhea is injured. If Rhea was even around, she's on a different show. You don't have a way to sort of keep her on TV, just even in the background for now. And that's tough.
I guess I'm sensing like, well, Lyra now like is a free, dance partner.
You could do that. Yeah.
With Bailey, like we don't exactly know what Bailey's status is, but like, I guess you could do an Io versus Lyra feud with Lyra carrying the bulk of the talking, which would be like fascinating in many ways, but that would be somewhat fresh. But that would also, to me, like maybe struggle for airtime in a sea of now, like, with a Becky Lynch and Stephanie Vaquer in there. So
yes, yeah. I do wonder also if we got to somehow figure in Sol Ruca getting a rematch for the title, especially after winning by DQ in the match this week. So, right. They're probably going to work that in somehow. So that's just another thing that you have to take stock for.
We are wrapping up the summer big on the Post Wrestling Cafe as John Pollock and Neil Flanagan are flying to London, England for live on-the-ground coverage of AEW All in London. Also this month, we conclude our reviews of Dark Side of the Ring and WWE Unreal Season 3, reviews of ROH's Death Before Dishonor and TNA Lockdown. Rewind Away will cover the WWF Aggression album, and Book Club will cover Total Nonstop Agony by Vince Russo. Sign up now at postwrestlingcafe.com.